First of all, let me just give you a quick bit of context about my main business, which is called ReefFloat. We were a UK startup about 5 years ago, and we developed a plastic float that fits within standard scaffolding. And with that, we can make large pontoons. We work almost exclusively in the commercial sector. This is a bomb disposal project that we were doing. We do a lot of work in the defence sector. You can see there we've got various outboards and bits of kit that we can attach to the system. Demolition work, civils, we do a lot of marine civils work, and sort of large infrastructure projects. We work under bridges a lot. So that's ReefFloat, that's my business, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. This product, ReefFloat, started when I was much younger. A lot more foolish, around 25 years ago, and I used to write for some boating magazines, and the editor phoned me up and said, "Are you interested in taking a 5-meter rib around Britain and writing an article about it?" And I did. And this is when we were in the Kyle of Loch Alsh, which is right up in the top of Scotland. It's halfway round, and I was sat on the pontoon in the morning with a cup of coffee, with my feet in the water, and for the first time I observed EPS foam coming out of the pontoon. It was quite an old pontoon. I didn't think much about it at the time, but what it did, it started an observation over the last 25 years of this problem. So EPS, why do we use it? Well, first of all, we use it because it's low cost. It's low density, so it floats really well, provides a lot of buoyancy, and it doesn't absorb any water. And just a quick point of note, in the UK, most of our marine pontoon stock is a system like this. So a steel or an aluminium frame, a wooden or a composite deck, and then concrete EPS floats underneath. Obviously here you've got a lot more full concrete floats, but they all use EPS for their buoyancy. So the EPS is covered in a skin, concrete, plastic, or some kind of textile to stop that EPS breaking off into the ocean. But it does escape, and it escapes for 2 reasons. The first is attrition. And this is not an uncommon sight in the UK, where the concrete skin has failed, and you can see how much of the EPS there has escaped. And that happens mainly because of poor management, where old floats aren't replaced or repaired. And the other reason that it happens is because older floats are sold. Okay, so instead of disposing of them properly, they're sold secondhand, normally moving up to an old boatyard up a river somewhere, which is just pushing the problem upstream. And then obviously you've got all the normal environmental factors. And interestingly, somebody came to see me yesterday, and they said they've got petrochemical floating around sometimes in their marina, and the petrol's actually eaten through the float, so you can see horizontally through the float at the waterline. What does that look like? It looks like this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And then we move on to our second reason that EPS escapes, which is a storm. This is Storm Emma in the UK, in Holyhead, where a whole marina was lost, and all of that you can see there is EPS. That EPS foam had to be cleared up from the shores of Ireland across the Irish Sea. And you'll be more familiar with this one, which is the floods recently in Brisbane, where in 2 separate incidents, 300 and in one and 500 in another, pontoons were lost, either sinking or being recovered or washing up on the nearby beaches. And this is where the term white spill was coined, when so much EPS was released. And more closely to my home, this is in the Penryn Falmouth River, where I come from in Cornwall. And after the recent storms, we had a near hurricane this winter. We had a massive release of EPS from our existing pontoon stock. No pontoons actually came adrift. But you can't now go onto the shores of my local river and look at a square meter and not find a significant amount of EPS foam balls within it. Talking about storms, we all know that we're seeing more and more extreme weather events, and this is a plot of extreme weather events. And the other factor that needs to be considered is all the best marina locations generally were taken first up. So this is the River Hamble, extremely sheltered in the south coast of the UK. And new marinas are often built in more exposed locations. So why is EPS a problem? When it breaks up, the white balls, there's a lot of white balls in EPS. Just one cubic meter of EPS contains around 5 million foam balls. When it does escape into the ocean, it takes hundreds of years to break down, and even then it only breaks down into microplastics. And because it looks like food to a lot of marine life, it's often eaten and ingested. Also, when there is a big incident, it's very hard to clean up at scale, often relying on the public with leaf blowers. So unlike an oil spill, which has skimmers and booms, there isn't that sort of technology for EPS. So how big is the problem? Well, we don't know exactly how many, but since the 1970s, millions or tens of millions of pontoons have been built with EPS globally. So what is ReefFloat, the solution that we're here to talk about? Well, it's a special low-density concrete that we've developed, and it floats, which is obviously important for pontoons. It's much stronger than EPS, and you can see here, got a car parked on some samples, and on here we've got 15 kilograms on a 1 centimeter square point load. And really importantly, at the end of its life, it can just be crushed. It's completely inert, which means nothing goes to landfill. In the UK now, it is more expensive to dispose of an old concrete foam float because it's dealt with as a hazardous waste than it is to buy a new one, which is doubling the through life costs of that float. How long will it last for? A very long time, significantly longer than existing floats. This is a picture of the Hoover Dam, and 40 years afterwards, they're still measuring very small incremental increases in hardness of that concrete. So providing concrete has hydration, it just keeps on getting harder. And if that does escape, if it does escape into the marine environment, it's not going to do any harm to marine life. And because it's heavier, it has a lower center of gravity, making the pontoon more stable. And it also gives it more inertia to deal with wave action. So this is the prototype that we put in the water 200 days ago. You can see there the low density core. And we also, using the SCAFloat system, have developed a methodology to replace the floats in situ. So if a marina wants us to replace failing floats in the UK or anywhere, we can do that. We can do that without any disruption to berth holders. So this is the float that we replaced in Falmouth. And it's now been in the water for 200 days as a sort of core proof of concept of the ReefFloat concept. So, 1 minute to go. How do we then turn that into business? We launched ReefFloat at METS, which is a big industry trade show in Amsterdam last year, where we had significant interest. So, you know, we went in with a full imposter syndrome, not knowing what the industry was going to say. We had some really good conversations. And this is where we currently are on our TRL. So that's Technology Readiness Level program. So we're currently at around 7. Okay, so that's our journey over the last couple of years. And we now need to get to market. So what does that look like over the next 12 months? We've set up a new company. I've already got one business that's almost killed me, and I can't run two. So we've set up a new business called ReefFloat Limited. We're raising some seed investment and we're building a new team to take the product to market. We're putting more pilots in the water around the UK to continue to prove the concept. We'll start working on certifications and approvals. And we're doing some very rigorous testing because, of course, we need to prove to the industry that this float is going to sit under your marinas for a long time. And so we're putting floats in the water, we're removing the skin, we're damaging them, and then we're monitoring those over a period of time. We're also working out how we commercialize the product. Obviously, it's easier for us in the UK, but how we offer service to marinas to replace existing floats, but also how we license it and work with existing pontoon manufacturers to offer our product so that they can put it into their pontoon systems. So yeah, I think that concludes my conversation. Put this slide in because this is the business that we're in. We're an innovation business. SCAFloat is an innovation business as well. That's definitely what it feels like. We are pulling the business forwards. And And then I think the only thing I was going to say to conclude on the future smart theme, if I can have 30 seconds, is can I just have a hands up of how many people here are marina owners or manage a marina? Okay, so that's the majority of you. And the theme of this conference is Future Smart. And what I would say to you is I think there is going to be a change coming. I think that's going to come from berth holders. I think it's going to come from the public. And I think it's going to come from legislation in terms of the use of EPS in pontoons. So thank you very much. And sorry, I ran slightly over.